It's been coming a while. I told y'all with my reporting, just revolving around the Overwatch League, the release of new games, and the death of Heroes of the Storm, that everyone in that company has been squeezed to within an inch of their life. It's insane. There are people doubling up on jobs and getting paid one salary. It never used to be like that, but the bottom line is if you don't take on the additional duties, you get fired. There have been people who have been fired from their jobs, told, we don't need you anymore, and then they've immediately advertised for that job just on a lower salary. And in some cases, it's even been intimated to the people they fired, well, you could always come back on that lower salary. This is why they're being investigated in several countries for improper employment law practices, most notably France, where there's a very large action going on right now. As I said, Activision Blizzard, they are a piece of shit. They're the worst offender in our space. And I say that even with all of the recent news about Ubisoft. So anyway... Oh, another donation coming in. $10 from Anon. Any thoughts on how little expectations are on orgs to come out against the Neom stuff? Same applies to League, but especially with CS, we seem to have zero hopes of any org protesting the deals. Any hope falls on talent. That's true. Separate topic, but appreciate the $10 Anon. We'll get to that. Somebody make a memory of it. And then before I turn the stream off, go, Richard, you boomer, you've forgotten to talk about the thing the donator wanted to talk about. So we'll do that. But anyway, they're just a terrible company. Activision Blizzard are the worst offenders. And one of the things that's become absolutely untenable within the company is that they expect the staff who were sort of safe in their jobs to do more. Remember, in the year they had record revenue, which Bobby Kotick greasily was laughing about on a shareholder call at the same time they fired hundreds of people. Supposedly to combat bloat or whatever the fuck. The people who have their jobs safe are being expected to do more. The people who might be on the chopping block are finding out that, they're not going to get the same benefits they used to have. They're not going to get pay rises commensurate to it. And on top of that, at the executive level, it's been publicly revealed. I think it was a matter of fact that it came out into the public domain because of another lawsuit no one's reported on. I'll even tell you, if you guys want to look it up, because I don't want to get waylaid talking about this lawsuit. Maybe it's for another time. But it's a lawsuit that might even have triggered a securities investigation. Because what they did when they gave away the Destiny franchise, and Bungie, essentially, they didn't tell their shareholders about it, nor sort of made any great efforts to find a suitable resolution. And when they did that, the share price dropped by almost $5 per share. You go, and that's not nothing. It is when there's millions of shares and billions of shares. That's a lot of money, and it cost the shareholders, lots of cash. So they said that they've breached their sort of shareholder responsibility, their fiduciary responsibility, and in the lawsuit, they don't just name Activision Blizzard, they name Bobby Kotick, who was the CEO directly, and in the document somewhere, I think it came out how much Bobby Kotick was earning a year, and it was 30 fucking million. And that's without, bits and pieces, and some of that's in shares, sure, but that can go up. So technically more than 30 million. But that doesn't even include like expenses all being covered. And it's insane how much this guy makes at the higher end of the company. And let's also be clear, like, it's not like we're making great decisions for Activision Blizzard in terms of like reinforcing their brand strength for, the people who've grown up loving their games, of which I'm one. They're basically making terrible, cynical cash grab decisions that are sustainable only in so much as the sort of trendiness around your product can be sustained. So Call of Duty can release a game every year. Doesn't really matter whether it's better or worse. It's always going to be a top seller. That will stop at one point. And then it's like, well, how do we save the Call of Duty franchise? By that point, you can't. You've ran it into the ground. But they have no interest in not running it into the ground. They're just willing to risk having to cross the bridge of revitalizing their flagship game when they come to it. And they will. It's inevitable. You can say, Richard, there's no chance. Call of Duty is future-proof. It's never the fans are never gonna not buy it. Let's see. Check back with me in 5 years if I'm not dead. Right? Not saying I am gonna be, but just in case, because then obviously don't check back if I'm dead. Waste your time, and I won't care. But check back. FIFA, another example. EA, we're not talking about them. But there are companies that just have a flagship title or multiple flagship titles that they release every year, and they're not releasing every year because they're making improvements and changing things. If anything, actually, the games are becoming more skeletal in the way they're put together, and you get less for the same amount of money that you were paying 5 years ago for a better game. The Madden franchise is notorious for it, and I think certain editions of Call of Duty are notorious for it. Call of Duty's a fucking lottery every year. You never know what you're gonna get, right? Never know what you're gonna get. So anyway, Activision Blizzard don't care anymore, and they're paying their CEO more and more to oversee these terrible decisions. They've publicly said, hey, mobile is the biggest platform for our games now. Brilliant. Everyone loves that when you've made some of the best and most beloved PC games of all time. Bobby Kotick, as I've told you many times, in an anecdote I was told when I was investigating behind the scenes at the Overwatch League, first thing he said after seeing an early build of Overwatch, he said, I love it. When can I play it on mobile? That is going to be, that's where the cash is. That's where we can milk people. And the standards are less, and the tech is less. It's perfect. It's perfect for Activision Blizzard. Slipping standards with higher profit margins. Oh, they're wanking off to that. Whoa, tell me more about how we can live like this. So anyway, this story's come out now, and lo and behold, it turns out they're ripping their staff off, essentially, and the disparity in wealth is unacceptable, and everyone's really pissed off. And this comes from years of being squeezed. So I don't know where we're going to go. Might get some strike action coming, but I thought we'd take a look at the article. I also want to add, I got sent, and I know loads of people have been sent it now, but while this story was clearly brewing with Jason, I got sent the database, because part of the story, you'll see, is all the Activision Blizzard staff gave up how much salaries they were making or how much they were making per hour if they're a contractor or whatever, to basically say, well, let's figure out who's getting fucked the most. And some of these salaries are outrageous for what people are doing. I'll be straight up about it. And again, remember, Bobby Kotick, 30 million the entire time. Like, I know CEOs make more money than a coder, right? But if you go to a place like Norway, most Scandic companies, German companies, the disparity between the person at the very, very top and the person at the very, very bottom are nowhere near as pronounced as they are in American companies. And American companies try and publicly justify this for a variety of reasons. And the reality is, it's completely unjustifiable. Bobby Kotick makes $30 million a year, while the person who codes World of Warcraft makes maybe $120,000. That's that you can't justify that, I don't think. But anyway, that's by the by, right? Let's take a look at this story. Blizzard workers share salaries in revolt over wage disparity. I'm sure Jason enjoyed using the word revolt in a headline. I bet he looked up at the hammer and sickle picture above his desk while he hammered this out, going, we'll show them comrades at Bloomberg. Employees at Blizzard Entertainment, a division of Activision Blizzard Incorporated, began circulating a spreadsheet on Friday to anonymously share salaries and recent pay increases, the latest example of rising tension in the video game industry over wage disparities and executive compensation. Blizzard, based in Irvine, California, makes popular games, I would say one-time popular games, including Diablo and World of Warcraft. In 2019, after an internal survey revealed that more than half of Blizzard workers were unhappy with their compensation, The company told staff it will perform a study to ensure fair pay, according to people familiar with the situation. Blizzard implemented the results of that study last month, which led to an outcry on the company's internal Slack messaging boards. One employee then created a spreadsheet and encouraged staff to share their compensation information. The anonymous document, reviewed by Bloomberg News, contains dozens of purported Blizzard salaries and pay bumps. Most of the raises were below 10%, significantly less than Blizzard employees said they expected following the outcome of the study. Our goal has always been to ensure we compensate our employees fairly and competitively, said Activision Blizzard spokeswoman Jessica Taylor. We are constantly reviewing compensation philosophies to better recognize the talent of our highest performers and keep us competitive in the industry, all with the aim of rewarding and investing more in top employees. Now, again, this is a complete loggerheads with their actions. That's what Activision Blizzard are now. What they do and what they say are so disparate in terms of where they should connect or at least have some overlap. It's borderline absurd. It's borderline surreal. They have fired multiple top performers, multiple people in high-profile and public-facing positions, or certainly allowed them to leave, refusing to battle and fight for the people, or even entertain maybe treating them better. And we've seen Kim Pham. Kim Pham is one of them. Nate Nanza is another one. These are people that have done so much good over at Activision Blizzard, and yet are no longer at the company because of this increasing culture, a culture of pressure, a culture of division between management at the top end of the hierarchy and people in the middle and below. Like, you know, a lack of pride in their product, profit being a primary motivator. This is essentially, you know, when you look at the lifespan of a company, this is the point generally before they fall into the abyss of people not buying their products, a lack of care, products becoming so grotesquely inferior to what they were even releasing a few years ago. People will move away in droves, and I honestly think it's going to happen to Activision Blizzard in the next 5 years. I think, and I think they'll have to sell to another big conglomerate company like a Disney or, you know, something along those lines. I think that's the inevitable outcome for a company that is just clearly more interested in not creativity, not people, but just the churn of making garbage to sell to people for as much as you possibly can. Anyway, on it goes. This year, Blizzard's top performers received a salary increase that was 20% more than in prior years, and more people got promotions. Taylor added, overall, our salary investment is consistent with prior years. Wage disparity has become a hot-button issue in the $150 billion video game industry as calls for unionization grow. A pro-labor group recently slammed Activision Blizzard for the pay of Chief Executive Officer Bobby Kotick. His 2019 compensation was worth $40 million at the end of that year, according to data compiled by Bloomberg. And the package has grown since then as the company's stock has soared. Last year, the company also paid $15 million in stock awards and sign-on bonus to the incoming chief financial officer, Dennis Durkin. In the anonymous spreadsheet, one employee listed the CEO's annual salary, bonus, and stock award. Now, you remember that story, of course, don't you, where they brought in somebody new at the high executive level and then paid him an insane amount, and it happened again just shortly after that quarterly call, where they were saying, yeah, and we fired hundreds of people, and God, you know, it's just one of those things, but we do have this record profit to talk, record revenue to talk about, so that should keep you all happy on the call. And then they get past the shareholders call, and then they give someone a grotesque, exorbitant salary to go and be a chief financial officer. Meanwhile, of course, dodging taxes left and right. I think at least in 3 countries, the governments are investigating potential tax evasion for what they're doing. Just classic, right? In internal messages reviewed by Bloomberg News, Blizzard employees said they were struggling to make ends meet while watching Activision Blizzard's revenue grow year after year. Some producers and engineers at Blizzard can make well over $100,000 a year. I love how they're selling that. Like, that is a lot for what these people create and how much profit it generates. It really isn't. That's like saying, well, Arnold Schwarzenegger's in an action movie that made $100 million worldwide, and we paid him 150 grand. You'd be like, nah, this ain't quite right. Like this, you're selling it against him. Without him, you can't sell the movie. But this is the nature of the beast. This is the nature of the business. But others, such as video game testers and customer service representatives, are often paid minimum wage or close to it. Now, let me just also explain to you, if you're going, fucking hell, these cunts don't know they're born, let me just put it in context a little bit. I'm going to just bring up a few people talk to me about this. Jason Schreier beat me to the punch, I guess, in a way, but that's fine. I would have wrote this up because, Activision Blizzard are always going to be dangling on the hook for me. But I had a few people hit me up and talk about it, right? And where the studio, where their offices in America are situated, in California, Irvine, California, I should say, the rent is absolutely astronomical. The rent is through the roof. You can't imagine what it's like. I mean, listen, I don't know why anyone would want to live in any part of California. It's not for me. That's a side issue. The rent over there is so high that people who work at Activision Blizzard are having to bunk together. They're having to get roommates, and the company knows this, and the company facilitates it by connecting people rather than thinking, grown adults having to live like they're at college. Maybe we should pay them more, but where people have to live to be in a sensible distance to commute to work, in some cases, people are paying like $24,000 annually for rent. Now, if you're only being paid like $48,000, that it's madness. It's absolute madness. And let me just tell you as well, when you go into some of the salaries, because I've got the database in front of me. Let me just read you out some of these salaries. A full-time employee who's doing like software engineering is okay. So the software engineers are getting between $60,000 to $75,000. A test analyst, so the people who test the software. And this is even as a full-time employee, get an hourly rate of $23.77 an hour. There's a test analyst here, $48,000 a year. Again, remember, these are people, he's living in Irvine, or they're living in Irvine. Obviously, it doesn't say who they are. Associate test analyst, $36,000 annually, also living in Irvine. There are some people that are really going to struggle with rent and bills and food and having a roommate's a necessity rather than like a nice option because you want to live with someone. So, now, there are other salaries. There's so just to let you know at the upper end, I mean, it's all over the place. It doesn't even seem to have a salary structure without knowing sort of how it works and how many, years these people have been at the company. It's very hard to assuage whether or not these salaries are fair. But there's, here you go, senior game producer, $142,000 a year. Had a 10% pay rise last year. So anyway, but also living in Irvine. Now, this was very illuminating looking at this because there are some people that really are making well below what you would expect being at one of the top media companies in America, which is what Activision Blizzard are. And all of this is precipitated, this ill feeling is precipitated by look what they're giving their executives. Like, why are you signing a chief financial officer and being like, well, yep, here's 15 million in an insane share package, and then the shares go up, and it's like, oh, based on the hard work of the people below, and it's like, listen, I'm all for CEOs being well compensated. I think if you earn it to a certain degree, and there should be a wage structure. I'm not like some hippie wanting to live on a fucking commune and sing Kumbaya. But 40 million for Bobby Kotick and 36 million for for someone who tests the software before you, or 36,000 for a year in Irving for someone who tests your software. These are not acceptable disparities. These are insane. This is crazy. Right. Blizzard Entertainment has traditionally remained autonomous from its parent company, so this is another little interesting tidbit for you. But in recent years, Activision's corporate office has pushed the game development studio to cut costs. Last year, the company eliminated hundreds of jobs and asked some of the remaining staff to take on the responsibilities of those who were let go. That extra work did not come with more pay, according to the people familiar with the company, who asked not to be identified discussing sensitive private information. So as I said in another video I did on my YouTube channel, I think it's called The Blizzard You Know Is Dead or something along those lines, People have always been wondering, like, well, why is this happening? And this is, again, what happens when a bigger company buys a smaller company and promises them independence and says they can do whatever they want. Of course it doesn't work like that. They're going to want to stick their fingers in the gumbo and see if what's being cooked up is delicious. And by delicious, they mean profitable. And if it isn't, then guess what they do? They're going to tell you need to make changes. And if you don't, we'll fire the people who were supposed to make those changes and put in our corporate lackeys and shills to do it on our behalf. That is what parent companies do to sort of subsidiaries all the time. It's what you sign up for. There is no way you can ever take money from one of these big companies and remain completely independent, even if, like we saw with Epic Games. They took money, they took Chinese investment money and said, but they don't control what we do. They only have 40% or whatever it is. 40% is a huge amount of influence when we're talking finances. And when times are good, that 40% might not amount to any tangible changes. But when times are bad and people are losing money or not using your products and buying your products, 40% suddenly becomes hugely influential, because if they decide to sell or pull out, you got big problems. So this is what we've known for a while. We've known ever since the acquisition, Activision have been squeezing Blizzard more and more. I've had Blizzard staff members tell me this directly. I've listened to the despondency, people who've been within the company for over a decade. They were there in Blizzard's glory days and contributed to those glory days, and now they're out, they're done, they're gone. They can't take it anymore. They're being told to fire people they genuinely consider family because they worked on these legendary titles from a small startup. They obviously don't want to stay there anymore. Of course, people are going to be miserable and depressed. Unfortunately, for a lot of the executives, they've made enough money over the years that they can walk away from those jobs and not have to take something else immediately. They've got money in the bank. But be under no illusions, those same executives, they've not made anything like the Koticks of this world, pulling in $40 million a year, and for what? Look at what they did with Mike Morhaime. You don't have to like the guy. I don't consider him divisive or anything myself. He's a hero of mine in gaming. Made legendary titles, clearly loves the games, clearly knows what he's talking about, clearly passionate. I think he would have happily been at Blizzard until the end of time. But the idea that he left willingly and it was in a happy place with where Blizzard is now, he's the barometer. He's the yardstick of what's going on at Blizzard. He would have worked there until he died. He legit loved it. But that was not an option. So yeah, it's Activision. Activision is the tumor that's killing Blizzard. And unfortunately, like one time I saw with a pet mouse, the tumor is bigger than the mouse. The tumor is bigger than the body it's killing. That's where we're at. So no surprise to anyone. It's Activision. It's Activision that are fucking killing everything and ruining everything and making Blizzard people miserable and making the game shit and telling them to fire people and increase profits. Because of course. Because that's just who Activision are. This is insane. One veteran Blizzard employee told Bloomberg News they received a raise of less than 50 cents an hour. They are making less now than they did almost a decade ago because they are working fewer overtime hours than they did back then. Several former Blizzard employees said they only received significant pay increases after leaving for other companies, such as nearby rival Riot Games Incorporated in Los Angeles. 50 cents an hour. Such a low pay rise that you end up earning less because there are less hours to work. Like, I can't tell you how insignificant. Like, put it this way, even in these difficult financial times where everyone's afraid of financial ruin and everyone's scaling their shit back, I can't explain to you that how even in times like this, a 50 cents an hour increase in your money is essentially meaningless. Because that will amount in real terms to like, I don't know, $4 a day. And the dollar ain't great. It's just so... It's just so ridiculous. And it's almost derisory. Like, it is technically a pay rise, but imagine you've worked just tirelessly for a company. And you know what? You like it. You like working tirelessly. You're very proud of the work you do. You feel part of the company. And you sit down and they go, listen, great news, John. Time for your pay rise discussion. And we've been cooking up the numbers and we think you're going to like it. And they're like, finally, they recognize me. What is it? And some greasy-faced executive with that fucking Bobby Kotick style mannequin grin is smiling at you going, we're going to bump you up $20 a week. It's like they've just shat in your face. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. These are the things that would make you leave a company. I just can't even begin to express, like, technically it's a pay rise. Technically it's a good thing. No, it's absolutely derisory to the point of being insulting. In 2018, way back in time, feels like a different time, a better time. In 2018, messages on internal Blizzard communication channels reviewed by Bloomberg News, employees talked about money-saving measures that they'd had to take to remain with the company. One employee wrote that they had to skip meals to pay the rent and that they used the company's free coffee as an appetite suppressant. Another said they would only eat oatmeal and bail on team lunches because they couldn't afford to buy the food at the company cafeteria. A third said they and their partner stopped talking about having kids because they knew they just wouldn't be able to afford it. That contrasted with the pictures they saw of more senior Blizzard employees enjoying vacations to Disneyland with their families. It's unbelievable. Remember, this is one of the wealthiest media companies, one of the wealthiest corporations in America. In the world, by extension. There are many above them, sure. But the money they make, there is absolutely no excuse for any of this. And as I said, if you were wanting to start with just reassessing and rebalancing the finances, Look to the top and honestly ask yourself what Bobby Kotick is doing to justify $40 million a year. I can't really pinpoint it myself. I'm a nuanced guy. I think about these things. I'll give anyone the benefit of the doubt. I think certain CEOs, even when it's clear they're overpaid, they kind of almost justify it in a weird way. Bobby Kotick's not one of those guys. He's not some incredible, charismatic, outspoken leader. He's not a great ideas guy. He's had a ton of negative press. I mean, go look up the thing with the air hostesses and whatnot. I mean, it's not like this guy is like we love him. He's just so good. He's like Jesus. It's not like that. The one thing he seemed to be able to do in recent years that is maybe an argument to sort of justify why you pay him $40 million was get all of the mad cunts to sign up to the Overwatch League, which he did, fair enough. Apparently he did personally, Robert Kraft and people like that. He was the guy that personally got him to sign up. And once Robert Kraft was in, the name awareness is there and everyone else wants to sign up as well. But crazy stuff. Just crazy. To think he's getting paid all that cash, And meanwhile, you've got people going, should I eat today? Or just another 5 cups of coffee to make the hunger pains go away. I'm off to make you a game that's going to fucking make you billions of dollars. See ya. That's just a level of absurdity and just disgusting reality I'm not really willing to take.